Good day, dental professionals. Welcome to the Dental Flow podcast. We are dentistry's go-to resource for insights into the business side of dentistry. Your host, Benjamin Suggs, will be helping you navigate through the currents of the ever-changing dental waters. This podcast is packed with innovative practice growth strategies, actionable insights, and expert advice, all tailored to help you elevate your dental practice to the next level. If you're ready to dive in, so are we. Let's get into the flow.
Hey there, dental superstars. Welcome back to the Dental Flow podcast. As always, I'm your host, Benjamin Suggs. I'm the owner of Flow New Patient Marketing. The topic I want to cover today is why we stopped recommending mailers for our dentist clients. So let me set the table by just explaining that at one point in our agency, we used to send mailers in-house. It was a product that we offered our dental clients. And we used to send thousands of mailers each month for a range of dental clients. And now we don't do that at all. So we had a bit of a transition period where we went from doing it in-house, selling it as a product, to realizing that there were third-party people out there, vendors, who could do it a little better than us and cheaper than us for our clients. So we decided, well, let's just discontinue that as a product and let's just refer our dental clients out to a third-party mailing company. And those third-party mailing company that we worked with, they always offered us a payment, like, oh, we'll pay you for every piece of mail. We'll give you however many cents per mailer. And we always turned that down because my point of view has always been like, I don't want to recommend anything for a client of ours just because someone's compensating me for it. I only want to recommend things for my clients, third-party things that I think work and will help them. So we turned down that money from that mailing company. But the other shift that we had there is that we went from selling a product of our own to just referring our clients to a third party. So therefore, we just became less biased and much more objective about the effectiveness of those mailers. Now, that's not to say that we ever try and push services or products on our clients that don't work. It's just that, we're going to be a little biased in their effectiveness because we sell it. The same way a dentist, if you have a brand of whitening that you push, you're going to be a little bit biased about its success rate and its effectiveness, even if you're starting to see data or patients coming back and complaining about its effectiveness or it's not working. It's going to take you a little longer to move the needle to say, oh, well, maybe I need to reassess what I'm doing here because it's worked before. I assume it's going to work again. So I just say that just to be clear that we are coming to this from a completely objective and unbiased point of view now, which is why I can have this conversation with you today about what I think the effectiveness of mailers is, and I'm not a huge fan. So let me say there are a few exceptions. We do still see some pockets where mailers can be effective. I would say that those are for very rural practice. They can still have some success with mailers and also with some startups. And startups, I still don't think should be investing a lot of money in mailers. But as you know, if you started a dental practice in that first year, when you're just trying to get busy, you're trying to get the staff, everyone busy, everyone on board, and you're willing to do what you need to do to get those chairs filled. And in those cases, sometimes mailers can help because they can give you that feeling that you're getting more volume, getting more people in. Let me go through the reasons now why we stopped recommending mailers for our dental clients. And I'll start with the first one, and it's what I call mailer fatigue. And what I mean by that is that really anytime you're sending out dental direct mail, you should be targeting a higher income level. A lot of people just blast it out to a whole zip code full of people. But the reality is if you're sending out to people with low income, that does very, very little to help your dental practice. You want to send mailers out to people who make at least, I'd say, $100,000 a year as a household, because if they make that much money, there's a good chance that not only are they just going to come in for emergency dentistry when they need it, but they'll come in for preventive dentistry as well. And they'll also be able to do some of the other things that you recommend that they do. That's why we always said we only want to mail people who make over $100,000 a year. Now, the problem with that, though, everybody else out there is also wanting to mail those same people. Those people are very popular, people who make over $100,000 a year. So they're going to get mailers from everybody, and then they start getting mailer fatigue. And what I mean by that is they go to their mailbox and they have so many different mailers in their mailbox. They have hardware stores, dermatology clinics, dentists, anyone you could think of, furniture stores, everyone's mailing these same people because they have the income and purchasing power to go out and buy things. So what they end up doing is they go to their mailbox, they scan through what they have for anything that they think is actually necessary or important, like a bank statement or something from their insurance company. And honestly, everything else gets thrown into a recycling bin because they're so desensitized to it now. They're just getting inundated with so many mailers every day that they're not even going to take the time anymore to go through them. They're just going to look, okay, what's important here? That's what I'm taking out. Everything else, boom, throw it into the recycling bin. So that's what I call mailer fatigue. And that's a big one that we started seeing when we were objectively looking at the effectiveness of mailers. The next one is just our interactions with the mailing companies that we used to recommend. There was an ever increasing number of times that someone had to get a mailer to pick up the phone and call a dental practice. We started, I believe, 10 years ago, the number was like, you got to mail someone three times you mail somebody, and then they're going to pick up the phone and call. And then it was 6 times. And then years later, it was 9 times. So we got up to 9 times that you would have to mail somebody to start getting an influx of phone calls. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. You're talking about investing $50,000 or so, 30 to 50, let's say, to get the phone to ring. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know how you could justify telling someone, oh yeah, people need 9 touches before they're going to give you a call. Like, that's crazy to me. 9 times is way too much. That was one of the first, honestly, red flags for me. The first time I heard that from a mailer company was, wow, that's terrible. We need to do better than that. That's bad. So that was number 2. Number 3, you work with these mailing companies enough. And one of the things they try to do is they try to say, oh, well, you know, there's people who call the tracking number on your mailer, and those are people from your mailer, but honestly, everyone else is from your mailer too. The assumption is that every time someone Googles your practice, or every time somebody goes on Google and searches for a dentist and they see your practice, they're choosing you because they got a mailer, or 5 or 9. They got 9 mailers in the mail. So they're used to your name by now, and that's why they're choosing you. But that's a flawed assumption. And we even had companies that would say, well, just send us all the new patients that you've had the last few months, and we'll bump them up against our database and see how many of them received this mailer. And there's some science to that. Like, that's a valuable exercise, at least, to try and look at, okay, how many people actually got the mailer, so we can see if it did have some impact. But there's still no guarantee that just because someone received a mailer that they never read, that they had any impact on their decision to call your practice after they Googled find a dentist near me. So I also don't really buy that as a legitimate argument pro mailing. Like, I don't think that's really true. The next one is what I call the transitory nature of new patients that come from mailers. And let me explain what I mean by that. The best example or comparison I can give you is an oil change for your car. Think about, you manage your own vehicle. One is, you have people that take their vehicle to the same place, the same mechanic, to get oil changes, tire rotations, all that stuff. They get it done in one place. And it's because they trust that mechanic, and they want that continuity of service where, the mechanic tells them on this oil change, like, hey, we need to look at those tires the next time you come in, because next time we might see that it's time to replace them. Whereas you go to the mechanic for a first time and they're telling you get your tires replaced, and you're thinking, wait a minute, is this some kind of scam? You're just trying to charge me more money. But so that's why a lot of people prefer to go to one place to get all that work done. But then there's a whole nother group of people that they don't care where they go. So what they do is, when it's come time to an oil change, they go through all the mailers they've gotten in the last few months, and they find Jiffy Lube. Here's the oil change special. The first time oil change is only $20. Boom, that's where I'm going. So these folks are not really loyal to any brand or shop or place they're going. Like, they're just looking for the next deal. And I think that happens in dentistry too. Like, if I get a special in my in a mailer that says, oh, $89 cleaning, exam, and x-rays, mention this mailer. I call, I schedule it. Well, then 6 months later, how do you know I'm not going to do the same thing at a different dental practice when I get another mailer from another dentist? So I think the same thing is happening in oil changes is happening in dentistry. is that people become transitory. They start looking for the next offer the next time they need a dental service. They're just looking for the next special. The special is what is driving them. And to be honest, those aren't the best patients for you. Like, obviously, they're going to come in one time, get a cleaning. You're going to say, hey, maybe you need to do this, that, nah, good. And they're never going to come back. That's obviously a waste of your time. It feels like you're busy. It feels like great. Like, oh, we got these patients coming in. Great. Oh, they're responding to our offer. But if they're just going to look for the next one the next time that they get a mailer, then what good does that do you? And I would argue that digital is different. We do put offers on our websites when people go and search for a dentist, but that's different because they're looking for a dentist. They're not just sitting at home receiving an offer in the mail. And that's the next point I want to talk about too, is the difference between people who come from mailers and people who come from digital marketing. So mailers tend to be lower intent people. And what I mean by that is that you send out a mailer to thousands of people at one time, blast it out. So thousands of people receive this mailer. And you may happen to put it in front of somebody who actually is actively looking for a dentist at that very moment. Maybe. Maybe there's someone who gets this mailer and says, oh, that's crazy. I was just saying today I need to go find a dentist. So and here I got this crazy mailer offering me a special. I'm psyched. I'm going to go to this place. So that's rare, obviously. Very rare that someone's just sitting in their house that day and just happens to need a dentist. So if there's 30,000 people in your town and you mail 5,000 of them, what are the chances that you're going to hit these people that are just happen to be needing a dentist at that very moment? It's very low. Search marketing is different. Someone goes to Google and searches for a dentist. It's because they are high intent. They need a dentist right then and there. They're saying to us, I need to find a dentist, and we're putting an offer in front of them at that moment. It's not just blasting them at their house when they're sitting on their couch and they say, oh, cool, dentist. Yeah, I really want to do that. Really need that. So there's a big difference in the level of intent. Intent's a very important word. To be honest, like, I think Facebook marketing is also a low intent type of patient. And that's why, as a side note, we tend to see higher no-show rates from mailer patients and Facebook patients. It's because they weren't looking for a dentist when we communicated with them. We just shoved it in front of them. We call it interruption marketing. Like, we interrupted their day with this special, hey, we're a dentist, come see us, but they weren't looking for you. So that's why I feel like those people are always going to be lower intent patients than you will find via Google search marketing. Google search marketing is finding high intent people who want your service right this moment. And that is much more valuable than spending $5,000 blanketing a bunch of homes and hoping that some of the people that receive that need a dentist today. And that segues very nicely into the last point here. And that is the most important point. We just see a declining ROI when it comes to mailers. And that's why we stopped recommending it for our clients. And let's just look at some example numbers. So let's say your typical mail campaign is going to cost you $5,000 to blast out. And let's say you do 3 or 4 drops. Maybe you do monthly, maybe you do 3 or 4 a year, whatever it is. So now your annual spend, let's say you're up around, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000 that you say 20, you spent $20,000 on mailers. The response rates are not high here. Even like a 1% response rate is very, very aggressive and probably not probable. A 1% response rate is not that easy to get on mailers. And let's assume you get 1% though. Great. Maybe you get, for every mailer, you get 10, 20 calls and you're able to convert 30, 40% of those calls. So what's the net result? For every, say, $3,000 you spend, you're getting 2 to 6 patients. Like, that's not a good ROI. You spend $3,000 on Google ads, you're going to get more than 2 to 6 patients for sure. It's going to happen. Let's say you get 20 on that $3,000. Much better ROI. And again, much higher intent people that are looking for a dentist. They need your service. They said, I need this service. And we met them and we said, great, here we have the service. Come see us. So it's a much more valuable, higher ROI type of patient than you're going to find through mailers. So I hope that all makes sense. And I guess what I would challenge you guys to do is if you are still doing mailers, don't stop right away. Don't just say, because if you're doing them, I'm assuming that there's some value that you see in them, that they're doing some value for you, delivering some value for you. So what I would say is don't stop immediately, but do start really tracking what that return on investment is. And I'm talking about the people who literally got your mailer, called the mailer, and set an appointment and showed up for their appointment. That's your ROI. It's not, oh, well, they found us on Google, but they got the mailer 3 months ago. So that means the mailer is responsible for that person being our patient. But really look at that. Use a tracking number. See how many calls you're actually getting, and then see how many of those people actually end up being a patient who shows up for their appointment. That's the only way you're going to get a true ROI to decide for yourself if you should continue doing mailers or put that money into a more, what I would say, higher ROI channel like search marketing or something else, something that's higher intent. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you can take something away from it to improve your ROI, because that's what we're all about, is getting a better return on our marketing investment. I'll see you next time on the Dental Flow podcast.
Thank you for joining us for this Dental Flow podcast episode. If you enjoyed today's discussion and wish to stay updated on future episodes, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast with colleagues and friends. For more insights and discussions on dental marketing, we encourage you to continue riding the Dental Flow wave and tune into the next episode. Keep on smiling, learning, and flowing with the Dental Flow podcast.